Could Zion Williamson push his way to the New York Knicks? Let's get into this. Quickly before we start this video, if you guys enjoy this video and want to see more NBA content just like this one, hit that subscribe button and that post notification bell. Anyways, back to the video. Zion Williamson was drafted #1 overall in the 2019 NBA draft to the New Orleans Pelicans. When Zion was originally drafted to the Pelicans coming out of college, there was definitely a ton of hype around him. A lot of people were saying Zion Williamson was going to be the next LeBron James coming into the NBA, and Zion's expectations were so ridiculously high, it was almost impossible for Zion to actually meet those expectations coming into the NBA. But eventually Zion Williamson did end up getting drafted #1 overall to the New Orleans Pelicans, and the excitement was definitely sky high to see what this Pelicans team could be doing with Zion now. And at that point, Zion was joining a team of Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart. There were so many young players that they had on this roster, so overall bringing in Zion Williamson to that already very young and very talented roster was definitely something very exciting to see going forward. And in Zion Williamson's rookie season, he definitely did impress. In his rookie year, he put up a crazy 22 points per game on an incredible 58% shooting from the field. Now, of course, most of his points did come up from layups and dunks, but either way, shooting 58% from the field is impressive no matter how you're doing it. And Zion Williamson also put up a pretty good 6.2 rebounds per game and also a decent 2.1 assists per game considering the position he was playing at power forward. Now, very early in Zion Williamson's rookie season, I think it was pretty apparent that this guy was special. He was definitely going on the path of being a real superstar and maybe even a little bit more than that. Maybe even one of the best players we have in the NBA. That was the path that he was definitely headed on. And I think at the point Zion is currently at, I think he's still headed in that direction. I think he's that talented. But in his rookie season, the one thing that did come up, he has a few weaknesses, but the most important thing that did come up is his injuries. And going into the NBA draft, that was definitely something teams were worried about, which is Zion's potential for injury. When you actually just look at Zion Williamson, you could tell that his top half of his body is definitely very strong and very muscular, and the most important thing is that's very heavy. And when you look at the lower half of his body, it's not obviously not the same as his top. It's not nearly as strong and not nearly as heavy as his top half of his body. And when you consider how high Zion can actually jump, and when he's landing all that weight that's going onto his knees and his ankles, that's obviously a little bit of a concern for injury going forward. Now, of course, luckily in Zion Williamson's rookie season, and even up until this point, we didn't see any catastrophic injuries for Zion Williamson, which is good. But although we didn't see any catastrophic injuries, we have seen some little injuries here and there that did keep Zion Williamson out for a pretty significant amount of time, which is not exactly what you would like to see. Now, definitely you could say it's just the Pelicans being very cautious, which is definitely very good going forward. If they're being cautious right now, it could help Zion Williamson down the road. But one thing that you would really like to see Zion do is really work on his diet and try to lose some of that weight or muscle on the top half of his body. And then you can continue to jump as high as he is currently and maybe even higher with a less threat of actually landing on his knees with that much weight, and maybe a less threat of him actually getting injured and having a catastrophic injury. So the solution to really that problem that Zion Williamson incurs is really just to lose some weight on the top half of his body to really prevent himself from hurting his own knees. But either way, I definitely think Zion Williamson has a very bright future ahead of him, and I just think he's so talented going forward, and I'm excited to see what he can actually do going forward. But let's quickly take a look at Zion Williamson's game point by point to really describe why I think this guy is so great. So of course, the first thing you think of Zion Williamson and his bread and butter is really his finishing ability. We all saw those crazy plays when Zion is going all the way to the basket using his crazy athleticism to get some crazy posterizing dunks over the defender. But when Zion Williamson gets all the way to the basket, he doesn't always necessarily completely rely on his athleticism to get a posterizing dunk. When Zion gets all the way to the basket and gets downhill, it's basically game over for the defender. Zion uses his strength and athleticism very effectively to really muscle the defender out of the way and put up some nice layups around the basket, or maybe even posterize that player. But one thing I think a lot of people don't really give Zion credit for is the fact that Zion actually has a pretty nice layup package going for him as well. Once he gets downhill and really bullies the defender out of the way, Zion could actually hang in the air using his athleticism, but also hang in the air to make some crazy crafty layups in the air, which is one of the biggest reasons why I think Zion is so efficient and effective when once getting all the way to the basket. Of course, Zion is also very effective at that pick and roll lob situation, or maybe just cutting to the basket for a lob, and obviously those are kind of easier shots for him, and he does get some crazy posterizing dunks on those plays and some highlight plays. So that's another reason why Zion is shooting such a high percentage from the field. But overall, I think Zion is very complete in terms of his finishing ability, and that's something a lot of people don't actually give Zion credit for. But now talking about Zion's mid-range shooting ability, of course coming into the NBA, and even now, shooting is definitely not a strong suit. This is definitely something that Zion really needs to put in a ton of work during the offseason to really work on and maybe even perfect if possible. But now currently, obviously Zion is not a great shooter, but shooting from that mid-range area, I think he's a better shooter than people really give him credit for. I think his jump shot obviously is not the prettiest, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons people don't give Zion enough credit that he actually deserves in terms of his shooting ability. But in my opinion, I think Zion Williamson could definitely hit a few catch and shoot mid-range jump shots and maybe even some pull-up mid-range jump shots, but it's obviously not something he's going to do consistently. But now talking about Zion's three-point shooting ability, it's definitely very similar to his mid-range shooting ability, maybe a little bit worse than his mid-range, but obviously this is something that Zion can do in terms of his catch and shoot three-point shooting, and he has shown it in a few games here and there. But the issue with it is obviously he's not consistent enough. There's a ton of players in the league that have the capability of having some games where they look like they're completely on fire from that three-point range and look like they're decent shooters, and Zion definitely has shown a few games that he's actually capable of hitting some three-point shots here and there. But the issue with Zion is his consistency. He's just not consistent enough, and that's something that he has to work on during the offseason. And once he really puts in that work each and every offseason to work on his jump shot shooting, that's definitely something, in my opinion, I think we're going to see him getting better and better each and every season. Now, another thing that I actually think is pretty underrated about Zion's game is his passing and playmaking ability. We've seen Zion have a pretty good passing ability in terms of his IQ to find the actual players. When he's getting doubled or triple teamed, he's basically finding that open teammate every single time, either wide open in the corner for three, at the wing for three, wherever, maybe cutting to the basket. Zion in college, and definitely also translated into the NBA, has shown the real ability to be a pretty good passer, especially for his position and size. So that's definitely something very good going forward. Whenever you have great passers on your team, in my opinion, that really translates to winning. And on the defensive side of the ball, I also think Zion is pretty good. In terms of his strength and athleticism specifically, in terms of his strength, I think he's very good because he can really push the offensive player off the spot and really mess them up due to his strength. And obviously in terms of his athleticism, it helps in every aspect, but especially coming over for that weak side block, which we've definitely seen a ton of ever since he's gotten to the NBA, even in college as well. Zion has definitely proven the ability to have the IQ to really come off that weak side and get some crazy blocks with his crazy athleticism he does use. So overall, I think Zion is a pretty good defender. But now let's get to the point of the video, which is, could Zion Williamson actually push his way to the New York Knicks? So you may be saying, why am I saying that? What evidence would I ever get to even bring that argument up? Now, I guess you could say this is complete speculation, but when the draft lottery was actually going on, and when the New York Knicks were potentially in the top 3 and maybe had a chance to actually get the #1 overall pick, Zion Williamson was seen to be very happy when he was in the crowd that the Knicks actually made it within the top 3. And when it was found that the Knicks actually got the 3rd overall pick and then they were going to draft RJ Barrett most likely, Zion Williamson obviously showed some sadness, I guess you could say, on his face. And then when he realized he was going to the Pelicans, obviously that set in. Now, I don't think he hates the Pelicans and didn't necessarily want to go to the Pelicans, but I think he liked MSG so much and liked New York so much that he really wanted to go to the Knicks. Now, of course, this is complete speculation. He's never said this publicly. Whatever, you could say whatever you want. But in my opinion, I think he wanted to go to the New York Knicks on draft night or on the draft lottery night. Now, another reason that I'm saying this argument and bringing up the argument is more recently, Zion Williamson was actually asked what arena and what stadium does he actually like to play in the best. And Zion's first answer was Madison Square Garden. He said he loved playing in Madison Square Garden. He just loved the bright lights. Obviously, a lot of players love MSG, but the way that he said it, the way he was smiling, and the way that he said that before he even said his own arena was a little telling in my opinion. Now, of course, you can buy these arguments, you cannot buy these arguments. I don't think it really changes much. I think overall Zion does want to go to the Knicks in my opinion, and I think eventually he could do that. But if that were to happen, I don't think it would be before 6 seasons, because usually rookies never leave the team that drafted them before 6 years, just due to the money is so much more when you stay with the team that drafted you. But overall, if to answer the question, I think there is a chance that Zion could push his way to the New York Knicks going forward, but I definitely don't think it's likely at this point or even on the table at this point. But we'll see what happens in the future. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you guys think Zion Williamson could eventually push his way to the New York Knicks, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe and hit that post notification bell. It really helps me out a lot. Until the next time, peace out, guys.